Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Welcome back for another week of Heredity and Genetics. So, this week, we're focusing the first part of the week on inheritance and how do traits get passed down. Before we start with that, a little bit of review. Remember, DNA is what carries your genetic information, that genetic code, and that's found inside the nucleus of a cell. The chromosome is where those instructions are housed of what makes each part of you. An allele is the specific instructions about a trait, which would be like eye color, hair color, height. And the trait is the physical expression, it's what we see. So, what you see over here on the side, this is called a DNA helix, which just means it's like a fancy spiral staircase. And this is how DNA is coded, kind of like a computer code. So here we go, a good time to take some notes. How are some traits seen and others are not? How does that happen? So, for example, if we're talking about a plant, a person, animals, it doesn't matter. Um, that organism gets half of its information from the mother and half of it from the father. It doesn't matter which entity we're talking about here. So we know where the information comes from, but what we're really wondering is like this part over here. What are the offspring going to look like? And can we know that in advance? Can we predict what's going to happen? And we can. Because how many times have we seen something like this? Right? Here we have two black labs, and here's all their black lab puppies. And that seems like that would make sense. But then how do we get puppy combinations like these you see on the right? And can a breeder predict that? They can. So, how do you know what you're going to get? So, the first thing we need to point out here, there are two types of alleles. Remember, alleles are just variations of a gene. It just determines eye color, hair color, things of that nature. So, it can be a dominant allele or a recessive allele. Notice how the word dominant is written. It's big and it's bold and it stands out. And we're going to focus on that. Notice recessive is small and it blends in. That's going to be important. So alleles get written with letters. It's just a way to keep them separated. So for example, if we were going to talk about eye color and we wanted to use the letter B, it doesn't matter that it's brown and blue. The letters are, that doesn't matter. We could use the letter A. But if a trait is dominant, it's going to be written uppercase. And if it's recessive, it's going to be written as a lowercase. So that's what we're going to focus on right here. What does that mean? So a dominant allele, this is a trait that was always going to show up. It's always going to be seen. If the dominant allele is present, you will know it's there. You will see it through the trait. It will be physically recognized. It is like a loud emoji. You can't not hear it. You can't not see it. You can't not notice it. It makes itself known. So for example, whether it's written like this, two capitals, because this would be one from each parent, or if we have a capital and a lowercase, even though that lowercase recessive allele is present, it's being covered up or shadowed by the dominant allele. The dominant one covers them up. If you have a recessive allele, it's kind of shy and it's going to be hidden by that dominant allele and is only seen if you have two recessive alleles. So this is the only time you're going to see the recessive allele is if there's two. So both parents provide the recessive allele, then you're going to see it. Then it can't hide anymore. But if it has the option to hide behind the dominant one, it will. So for example, I have blonde hair and I have blue eyes, and those are both recessive alleles. So that means that's my only option. I don't have a dominant allele to cover it up. Those are my only options. I have two recessive alleles, so they are being expressed. That's what you see. If I had a dominant allele instead, you wouldn't see it. It would be hiding. So this is how you could have like a black lab and a yellow lab and end up with a whole mix of puppies like this. Or this is how, wait a minute, both